Hello you guys, welcome back to Sinister Sundays. Every week, we dive into some of the most haunted places here in America. We are going in order of statehood, and this week we are covering Pennsylvania. Let's start off with one of the oldest homes in America, the house of Betsy Ross. And for those of you who do not know who Betsy Ross is, she is the woman who helped design and create the American flag. She was married 3 different times. Her first husband died in a freak accident. He was guarding ammunition and the ammunition spontaneously exploded and he ended up dying. She did have 5 daughters by her last husband. One of them unfortunately died early on in life. This caused a lot of heartache, and it's said that her spirit still haunts the Betsy Ross home. People have claimed to see Betsy Ross in the basement of her old house, sitting at the end of a bed crying. It's also been said that you can see a man in colonial gear walking up and down the stairs in the main room of the home. Footsteps and voices can also be heard throughout the hallways of the house. Definitely one of those places on my list that I would love to go visit one day. Our next location is the Dobbin House Tavern. Now, Dobbin House Tavern is still up and running. It is one of the oldest buildings in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It was built in 1776 by Reverend Alexander Dobbin. This house is believed to be one of the first stops on the Underground Railroad. During the Battle of Gettysburg, Dobbin House Tavern actually acted as a hospital to both sides of the war. And obviously, with this amount of history, you can only assume that there would be a lot of ghost sightings. Gettysburg itself is said to be one of the most haunted places in all of the United States. It is said that the ghost of Alexander Dobbin himself roams the hallways and the rooms, smoking a cigar. It's also said that the ghosts of slaves will appear, and some of the hiding spaces that were placed underneath the floorboards and inside the walls. Guests and employees have claimed to see reoccurring blood stains on the floors and walls of the tavern. Dobbin House Tavern operates now as a restaurant and inn. If you love visiting creepy places to eat, this is definitely one of the places that you can go check out. Maybe, who knows, you'll have your own little creepy experience there. And before we dig into our last location, I just want to say, you guys, it was actually so hard to pick where I wanted to go with this episode just because there's so many locations to choose from. Pennsylvania, you guys are like insanely haunted. Gettysburg alone, you guys are crazy over there. Like, there's just so many places that I could have covered. I chose these 3 locations just really because they sparked my interest. So let's get into our 3rd location, which is Eastern State Penitentiary, which quickly grew to become the most famous and most expensive penitentiary of its kind in the world. It had over 450 heated cells, and by the time construction was done, it had cost over $780,000. But keep in mind, Eastern State Penitentiary began its construction in 1829 and finished in 1836. It was the first penitentiary to believe in punishment through isolation and forced labor. And to this day, its architecture design is one of the most copied for penitentiaries in America. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what it looks like, it is a big guard tower with like these 8 arms that come off the sides, and each arm is a hall full of cells. It does have other rooms, including like a cafeteria, showers, all of the essentials that any penitentiary would need, including underground cells for solitary confinement. Eastern State Penitentiary's first inmate was a Charles Williams, who was sentenced to 2 years for burglary. Now, you're probably thinking he stole something crazy, and well, he actually didn't. He stole a $23 watch, a $3 gold seal, and a key. A 2-year punishment doesn't really seem to really fit that kind of crime, so it's unfortunate that that man had to suffer. Eastern State Penitentiary had some very interesting punishments. One being the mad chair, where the inmate would be bound so tightly to the chair, arms, legs, stomach, everything, just bound so tightly that eventually they would have to go to the hospital inside the penitentiary and get amputations. And you guys remember that underground cell that we were talking about earlier? Well, that was used for solitary confinement. Not only were they in complete solitude down there, they had no running water, they had no toilet, no light, so it was just a big, pretty much a pit. They were given little to no food while they were in the pit, and they obviously had no human interaction of any kind. During the winter, they had a punishment called the water bath, where they would dunk their prisoners in a huge tub of cold water, take them outside, hang them on the brick walls, naked until ice formed on their skin. And the last one, which kind of honestly sounds like medieval torture, was called the iron gag, which was basically a metal collar. What this would do is if you were to try to move your tongue, your mouth, to speak in any way, shape, or form, the iron on the collar would actually dig into your skin and cut. Eastern State Penitentiary ended up closing down in January of 1970. Decades later, it reopened as a museum and is still running as a museum. You can actually go and take tours. Obviously, because of COVID-19, they are no longer taking in-person tours as of right now, but you can definitely go online and take a virtual tour, which is what I did, and there was some pretty interesting things there. And if you guys are ever wondering what I'm putting on my face, definitely check out the description down below. I will have links to everything. Fair warning, they are affiliate links, so I do earn a small commission off of any purchases made from them. If you don't want to purchase from them, that's fine, you can purchase elsewhere. But if you do, I definitely appreciate it. Okay, so you're probably wondering what is so haunted about Eastern State Penitentiary. Well, let's dive in. There are 3 main cell blocks that are haunted in the penitentiary. Cell block 4, cell block 6, and cell block 12. Let's dust off these eyebrows. Supposedly in cell block 4, there are ghostly faces that will randomly appear. Not only that, you can hear footsteps, wails, and whispers throughout the halls. It is said that you can see a ghostly silhouette of a guard standing in the guard tower at the end of the hall. During my research, I actually came across a story from one of the maintenance men that worked there during the 90s. And he said when he was opening up one of the cells in cell block 4, a force gripped him so tightly that he was unable to move. He said that he had stood there and it felt like he was being consumed by negative energy, and that tormented faces slowly appeared on the cell walls. It is said that in cell block 6, shadowy figures can be seen darting across the walls. And cell block 12 is known for echoing voices and crackling. Eastern State Penitentiary opened as a museum in 1994. In 2001, they started doing a haunted house attraction every Halloween as a non-profit organization called Terror Behind the Walls. Now obviously due to COVID, that is probably not happening this year. I could be wrong, we will see. I know eventually I would like to go. I think it would be kind of fun. Halloween, run around a haunted penitentiary. Comment down below if you would like to take a tour of Eastern State Penitentiary. Since opening and running as a museum, Eastern State Penitentiary receives over 285,000 guests per year. One of Eastern State's most famous convicts was Al Capone, the famous mobster. He spent a total of 8 months inside of Eastern State's walls. Many men tried to escape Eastern State Penitentiary. I believe in my research it said somewhere around like 200 men tried, but only 1 ever succeeded. Kind of makes me wonder whatever happened to that man. Obviously he's probably dead now. But I wonder what kind of life he lived after he escaped. And for those of you who are still currently watching, thank you. This video came out a week late. The first time I filmed it, unfortunately, half of the files ended up being corrupted. And I was super bummed out because I created this really great makeup look that I was super proud of. It's really different from the other look I created, and I'll post a little picture. They're both good, just totally different vibes. So next week we get to cover New Jersey. It was the 3rd state to earn its statehood. I wonder what amazing little gems I'm gonna find in my research. If you're from New Jersey, or you know some haunted places in New Jersey, comment down below. Let me know what's haunted so I can go research it. Black lipstick? Yeah. Black lipstick. Always black lipstick. Yeah. I'd have to say black lips was the way to go for this. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and definitely come back for next week's Sinister Sunday, where we will be covering New Jersey. Alright, you guys, I'll see you next week.